Okay, hi Melissa. I was going to do a big long email like I did for John and my last group, but I thought maybe it might be better to do a video and then I'll send a short email describing it. So, hello, I'm Ian. Nice to meet you. Um, Thank you for trusting me with this. I really appreciate it. This is something I really am passionate about, and I have a ton of fun doing it, especially seeing different people from different walks of life and different age groups and so on. It's very, very fun for me. My apologies if I say or something a lot. I'm new to talking on camera, so I am trying to get better at it. Um, First off, you're super active normally, so I'm sure that injury was a huge blow to your lifestyle. My goal with this, especially with the training aspect of it, is your safety. So I want to say first and foremost, if anything that I'm saying gets in the way of what your physio is telling you to do, then tell me and I will pivot. I don't see that being an issue, but if they do, then please let me know because I don't want to get in the way of those professionals in any way, shape, or form. Um, Before I get into the details of things, and I'm going to try to do this within a half an hour because there's another class that's going to be starting here soon. Um, Before I get into the details of the three kind of major areas of the program, your body weight at your height, although you might, I'm assuming that you're used to being thinner. I'm guessing that based on that volume of workload that you were doing before with your job and with your exercise and so on, that not doing anything or very little was probably a big shock to your system, and you probably put on a little bit of weight there. Obviously, that's normal because you're burning a lot of calories, even though you don't burn that many calories moving as much as people think that you do, especially once you're used to it, but you definitely burn some. And you were walking a lot, biking, boot camps, boxing, barbell stuff. I mean, you're doing a lot of training. So um, I'm not worried with the training aspect of things for you. It's going to be very different and probably very different from what you've even seen before, but it's something that I very much trust. But sorry, what I want to mention was the body weight thing. Your goal of 125 is quite uh, uh, usually what I go by is people have a goal, and usually that's not quite as much as ideal body weight, which is almost like your lean body weight. And your ideal body weight is probably in the 130s somewhere, and your goal is 125. I don't want to dissuade you from that goal. I just want you to understand that maybe getting down to 130 with a little bit of muscle tissue might feel better for you, and you might have to kind of just think about that as you're training. Don't let me tell you what you want to weigh. You should weigh what you want to weigh and what you're comfortable with. And if 125 is where you want to stay, then that's where you should go. But I just want you to know that maybe the 130s might feel a little bit better. Okay. Your one thing I wanted to start with. So usually with athletes, what I do is if you have like with John, for instance, jiu-jitsu is his that's his sport. Even though he's not a professional or anything, that is his sport. That's his skill sport. That's his most time consuming aspect of the week. With skill sports, you have to train them as much as possible because it's a skill that you're building up. So you don't necessarily have that right now, but I would say that your skill could be getting back to work, which is the going for longer duration walks and possibly carrying something. I'll get to that with the training more in depth, but I wanted to mention that as well as a movement that I wanted you to ask your physio about, which is called a Jefferson curl. And in my experience, it's really good for strengthening the low back. I don't know whether that's something that you would need. It's kind of a stretch, but also strengthens. And what it is, basically, if I show you this, is you stand on an elevated platform. So let's say I'm standing on a box, and I roll down, holding a very light weight at first, and I'm rolling all the way down, and I'm lifting up with basically I'm curling my spine, and my vertebrae straightens out one at a time, if that makes sense. But look into that movement and ask your physio about it. That might be something that you could work in as a skill to practice. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into the program in more detail. With the diet, I want to talk about something first, because the people who counting calories or tracking your food, some people think is like crazy, or it's like it's like for eating disorders and so on. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's just an understanding of what foods contain what, so that you understand how much food to eat. It's just kind of a thermodynamics thing, right? Calories in versus calories out. That is literally weight gain and weight loss. You mitigate the muscle loss by eating an adequate amount of protein, and you don't want to be in too much of a calorie deficit, but you have to eat less calories to lose weight. Just, it's simple. I don't know the science behind it, but I can tell you that that is the case. I've listened to many people talk about it. Any diet that is a restricting diet, like you don't eat this type of food or that type of food, all that's doing really is restricting calories. There is no magic type of food, which is the reason why you might think that sugar is bad, or fat is bad, or gluten is bad, or whatever your thing is. And that's fine. You are free to eat however you want to eat, as long as you're within this amount of calories and protein. When I give you a higher amount of protein to hit, it might feel like it's hard to eat a lot of highly processed, high calorie, low protein foods, right? Which is kind of the idea of it. It's a simplistic way to get you to not eat too much of that. You can have some. I always save room for treats and so on throughout my week, because like my wife is a great baker and a great cook, and we always have a takeout date every week. I'm not giving that up for anything. So I want to make sure I have the room for that. All you have to do is account for it. So for getting into numbers, for protein, your minimum amount of protein per day is 90 grams of protein. Now, to some people that might seem like a lot, some people that might seem like a little, okay? I have 2.5 times that per day, roughly. What that is that is a certain amount of protein based on your ideal body weight or your target body weight. And that is the on the low end of the spectrum. So 90 grams of protein, you said that you eat 3 meals a day, which is great. You feel free to break it up into 4 if you want. Doesn't really matter how many times a day that you eat. If you're doing those few snacks, those are fine too, as long as you account for it in your overall calories for the day. Doesn't really matter. You can have 10 snacks if you want. It might be a little harder to have snacks that are, again, high in calories and low in protein to hit those numbers, but you'll be able to figure out the best course of doing that. Hopefully with your tracking of a few days, you can kind of see when I give you these numbers, you can have an idea of how much more protein or less protein you have to eat, or more or less calories. Now for calories, I'm going to assume that your metabolism is quite high, and this amount of food might actually seem like a lot of food, but I want you to understand that when it comes to the calorie part of things, everybody has a basal metabolic rate, which is an amount of calories that they as an individual burn at rest. So not doing any kind of activity, they burn that at rest. Anybody who is giving you an amount of calories to eat, which this is my estimate, is that this is a very slight caloric deficit for you. It is a guess. Nobody can predict and can be 100% accurate. It seemed like I was quite accurate with John, and I was quite accurate with somebody else that I was coaching, and then another person I had to drop them a little bit. The reason for that is that everybody has, as an individual, everybody burns a different amount of calories at rest. So take me, for instance, I'm 180 pounds. You could have another person, another male, exactly the same age, with the exact same workload. We weigh the same. Everything is identical, but he burns 500 calories more at rest than I do. Okay, that's possible. So this amount that I'm giving you is just a starting point. We're going to watch your weight, and we're going to move it up or down as needed, but not that much. The idea is that you have your basal metabolic rate, and you go in a slight deficit with the protein high. That's going to make you lose weight slowly. And then if you're really lean and you want to bulk up, then you would go the other way and add a surplus, but just slightly. That's the idea. So It's going to be 1,600 calories per day. That's your maximum. So you don't go above that. If you go a little bit below that, if you have 14 or 1,500 calories, not a huge deal. Just try to stay close to that. If you go in a big deficit, if you're only eating 1,200 calories a day, then yes, you're going to lose weight very quickly, but you're also going to lose a lot of muscle. And that's what we're trying to avoid. You're trying to hold on to your muscle or even build it as you lose fat. So 1,600 calories and 90 grams of protein, that's what you have a day. You can eat whatever you want. If you have, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not going to tell you the types of foods to eat. In general, obviously, I'm assuming that you, as a very active person before, you probably understand how to eat healthy and what is digestible to you. You don't want to, I could tell you that you want to eat XYZ foods, but if you don't digest those well, then what's the point in me telling you to do that? Yeah, this whole diet looks great on paper, but I walk around bloated all day, right? So it has to work for you. A very important coach to me in the past, Stan Efferding, his slogan is compliance is the science. So the best diet is the one that you'll stick with. The best workout program is the one that you will do or that you can do. So with the diet part of it, you want to make sure that you are eating the foods that you like and that you enjoy, and that's something that is sustainable. And then you're just within your numbers and everyone's happy. Tracking your food is not something that has to be done forever. Ideally, you would track your food for a while and watch your weight go down. As you get to a comfortable weight, then maybe you can stop tracking and you can kind of guess what you're eating per day. But anytime that you guess, it's always, it's not as accurate, of course. So, but when you have done it for a while, you might be able to just count protein and kind of guess calories and then watch the scale. And if the scale is staying in the same place or going in the right direction, then you don't have to worry about tracking. But if your scale starts to go up, start to put on a few pounds, you can just go back to tracking food again. It's not that big of a deal. That's what I do. I will have times where I'm dieting for something, which I will track meticulously, and then I will be off. I won't have to, let's say I'm not competing or I'm not trying to get to a certain weight. I won't track, and I will estimate, and I watch the scale. And as the scale doesn't do what I want it to do, I go back to tracking. Okay? 1,600 calories a day, 90 grams of protein. If we find that it's too much, then we will cut down the calories. The protein won't really go anywhere until you start getting really lean. Then it might go up. If you find that that's too little and you're super hungry all the time and it's just like too much and your energy levels are down and you burn this crazy amount of calories and you can eat a way more, then we can add more. I think this is going to be right in the sweet spot and might even feel like a lot of food for you, and that's okay. Okay. For weight, everybody's enemy with the scale, and they don't like to weigh themselves. And especially as a woman, you retain water quite a bit differently than I do, and so your weight can fluctuate day to day quite a bit. The best way, the most accurate way to weigh yourself is under the same conditions every day. So pick a certain time in the morning that you do it, and you're going to weigh yourself every day, and then on Sundays take the average. And then that's what we want to see is the week over week averages going in a certain direction. That's how you really know. Because if you only weigh yourself once a week, but that one day a week you just happen to be retaining a bunch of water, and that's one of your higher days, then you'd think that you're actually gained fat, which you haven't gained any fat. It's just water, right? So if you weigh yourself every day, just mark that number down. Don't get attached to that number. At the end of the week, you take the average, that's your body weight. And then you take the next week, and you take your average, that's your body weight, okay? So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please reach out. I'm always happy to help with anything. If you are not sure about what to eat, I can give you tips and tricks on what I do, but I would assume that based on your athletic background, you'll be good. But if you're not, let me know. Protein, if you're not used to getting that much, you're not sure how to do it, I can give you some tips and tricks there for sure. The other main area is the exercise portion. You were very active before, and obviously you're having to slow down with your injury. And as I said in the beginning of this, my goal is to do this as safe as physically possible. So very simply, and I will send you all this stuff with the breakdown of all the exercises, but very simply, it's going to be you're going to work out, so you're going to resistance train twice a week, okay? You're going to resistance train, let's say Monday and Friday. It doesn't have to be those days. You can do it different days. Just make sure there's at least 2 days in between. So if you train on Monday, don't train again until Thursday. Make sure that you are recovered before you do it again, okay? And this is just for the resistance part of it. It's 2 workout days, which are going to be day 1 and day 2. They're both full bodies. Excuse me. But we're going to alternate exercises. So you're going to do different exercises on day 1 and different exercises on day 2. But they're all going to work out similar muscles, which is trying to hit your full body as much as possible. So I'm going to go through the exercises one by one in the email. I will go over them, but I'll actually go over them here as well, just to kind of show you what they are, if I feel like I need to explain them. So the biggest difference with the way that I teach people to train is that you're doing movements slowly, okay? You're not doing anything quick. That is where the risk comes into your joints. So for me, when I'm looking at a program or an exercise as an individual exercise, or as like a set or a group of exercises, anything to do with fitness, is it effective? Number 1. Is it time efficient? Number 2. And is it safe? Number 3. If it has all 3 of those, it's in my program. If it is 2 of 3 of those, I use it sparingly. So there's certain exercises that I do, like running or burpees, things like that, that are maybe effective and maybe time efficient, but they're not necessarily the safest thing in the world. I use those quite a bit less. My main program are things that are safe, effective, and time efficient. So the safety part of it is lifting things slowly, okay? No momentum, nothing quickly, okay? The difference between doing an exercise fast versus doing it slow is not its effectiveness. It's just as effective, but when you do it slowly, it's safer. So you can make it safer while being just as effective. That's the idea that I do. And even if, let's say that you had 2 exercises and one is just slightly more effective, like let's say the lifting fast is slightly more effective, but the safety is way different. Why wouldn't you go with the safer of the 2, right? I don't believe that they're less effective. I believe that lifting slow is as effective or more effective. I've seen more gains in the last 2 years training this way than I did before, where I was doing everything fast, hard, heavy. Everything was like tons of volume and so on. I feel much better now than I did then. So anyways, let's get into the resistance training. So exercise 1 is a squat, a slow squat, okay? I'm not going to demonstrate a squat. I'm sure that you know how to do one with all your boot camps and so on. Actually, you know what? I'll demonstrate everything. So you can use your body weight. What I would suggest is a goblet squat. So you're using a weight. So let's say that I'm using this little tiny 3-pounder, but let's say it's heavier, which you're going to have to determine the weight that works for you, okay? And we're going to do the squat nice and slow. All the exercises with weights or your body weight are 5 seconds positive, 5 seconds negative, as close to that as you possibly can, or even more. So you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. And you'll notice that the first rep feels fine. As you get to the second and third rep, it starts to burn, it starts to hurt. Not hurt, but it starts to burn a little bit, and that's showing you that it's working really well, that you can just do it slower and put more emphasis. You're basically trying to do the exercise as hard as possible. So pick up the weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep doing that, nice and slow. As you get to it's starting to hurt and you can't do it, excuse me, can't do any more, throw the weight down and switch to just body weight. Okay, if you want to make it even tougher, stick in that middle third and do it nice and slow. And it will burn, and when you can't do it anymore, you stop. What we are seeking here with these exercises is momentary muscular failure. That is where your muscle just says, okay, that's it, I can't do anymore. And you stop. That stresses the muscles, all the target muscles that you're hitting. It stresses those muscles in a way that is going to require an adaptation. Your body's going to have to adapt to that stress, and then through recovery, your body adapts that, and it goes, the next time that you do that to me, I'll be bigger and I'll be stronger. Okay, so the next one is a chest press with dumbbells. Okay, we know, sit back on a bench or the floor and pushing up. Okay, same cadence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The next one is what I had you get the forearm forklift for, isometrics. Okay, these have been a crucial part of my training personally, as well as to other people.